So now that we've gone through our regular verbs, our regular present, active, indicative, and infinitive verbs, now let's add some nouns to those verbs. Now we can start making complete sentences now that we have both verbs and nouns. And so the first group of nouns I would like to speak of are first declension nouns. Simply nouns that end in either alpha or eta. What exactly is a declension? It just means a way of categorizing different nouns based on their endings. So for instance, in the first declension, you have endings of nouns that have a, or as. See, alpha or eta is categorized here. In the second declension, you have nouns that end in omicron, os or a. And in the third declension, you have everything else. It's the middle child. It's got all sorts of bits here and there that sort of make it sort of wild and rambunctious. It's a mess, but it can be broken down as well into organized bits. Today we are just talking about first declension nouns, feminine first declension nouns at that. So what exactly makes up a Greek noun? How is it different than an English noun? Every single noun in Greek can be seen to have three characteristics that you can define: the gender of the noun, feminine, masculine, or neuter, the number, singular or plural, and the case. In these cases can be nominative, accusative, genitive, dative, or vocative. We'll talk about these one by one. But first, I want to talk about why we have gender inside of our nouns in Greek. Imagine this. Your friend says, "Oh, it's cool that you have a laptop, an art station, and a cool pen on your desk. Oh, by the way, I need to grab this from your desk." Doesn't it get a little confusing what this refers to? Does this refer to the laptop, the art station, or the pen? When you're writing in a different language, languages like Greek have what's called gender in order to help distinguish what this refers to. Art station could be feminine, while laptop could be neuter. And you could use a feminine word to refer to art station and a neuter word to refer to laptop. And that way, when you're writing and you use the word this, you know, oh, this refers back to this noun instead of this noun. And that's kind of why we have gender in different languages. In fact, English used to have gender. Then we got mixed with French and a few other languages, and that became too confusing. We actually lost a glorious piece of our language. I digress. That is why gender is so important in our study of nouns. I don't want to make this confusing, but right now we will just be studying feminine nouns in the first declension. First declension is usually feminine. Then we have the second part of a Greek noun, the case. And this is what the noun is being used for in the sentence. Our first case is nominative. Nominative refers to usually to a subject. Here we have the word was God. The word in this sentence is the subject. This word is nominative in the sentence. In Greek, God will also be nominative because was is an equating word. Word and God are equivalent because of that word was. So God has to be nominative if word is nominative. Then we have the genitive case. The genitive case gives a sense of either possession or correspondence. For instance, I could say John of Galilee. Of Galilee is the genitive. It gives that sense of. He's of Galilee. While the horse of John refers more to that horse is his. That's called a genitive of possession. But genitive adds that sense of. It's of this. So of John in the second sentence, and the second phrase is the genitive, or John's, as we would say in English. Accusative works more like a direct object, usually. I pour the water in this example. The water is the direct object, and the water in this sentence is accusative. So I is the subject, pour is the verb, and the water is the direct object. It's the one that the verb immediately follows the verb. The dative is used more like an indirect object. It answers the question of to or for or by. It's good to learn your dative helping words. It could be with. And so, for instance, if I say, I pour the water for David, then we have the indirect object. I pour the water. The water is accusative. It's the direct object. But to what end? For David. That's the indirect object of the statement. So to David, for the people. These are uses of the dative case. Finally, we have the vocative case. And this case is the case of an address. So for instance, if I were taking too long, I would say, Parker, hurry up with the lecture. That noun Parker there is the address. I'm addressing Parker. I'm speaking to him. And so I use the vocative case. In Greek, we have different endings for each of these cases. So here are the first declension endings. There are 3 different kinds of endings, but they all follow the same pattern. Pure alpha endings are the first branch. Every single one of these words for the word hora, which means hour or time, follows this pattern with the alpha. Hora for nominative, horas for genitive, it adds a sigma, hora with the iota subscript for dative, horan for accusative, it adds a nu in the accusative singular, and hora for vocative. Then for the plural, it becomes horai for the nominative, horon for the genitive, horais for the dative, horas for the accusative, and horai for the vocative. Do you see any patterns in the pure alpha endings? We see that the nominative and the vocative endings for both singular and plural are the same. Vocative usually is the nominative. But here in the pure alpha endings, we also see that the genitive singular ending, horas, is the same as the accusative plural, horas. So how will we be able to distinguish if this is an accusative or if this is a genitive? Singular, context. Second set of endings we have are the pure eta endings. So the pure alpha endings, if the word ends in a vowel or a rho right before the alpha, in this case in hora it is a rho, it gives an alpha. But if the word ends in eta, it is an eta ending. And this only affects the singular. So plural endings stay constant in first declension nouns. So for instance, we have phone for the nominative singular, phones for the genitive singular, phone with the iota subscript and the dative, phonane and the accusative, and phone and the vocative. And then as for the plural, we see the same endings we had in the alpha endings. Phonai, phonon, phonais, phonos, and phonai. We see the nominative and the vocative, the singular and plural, have the same endings. But here, it follows the same pattern as the alpha endings, a, as, a, on, a. But here we have a, ace, a, ain, a. The only thing that changes in the singular case is that the alpha is substituted for an eta. Otherwise, it has the same pattern. So a, ace, a, ain, a. And that a right here has a iota subscript. As for words that end right before the ending marker, with any other letter besides a vowel or row, for instance, the letter xi, we have a mixed bag. So in the nominative, accusative, and vocative, it stays alpha. Doxan, doxa, doxa. But in the genitive and the dative, it swaps out the alpha for an eta. Doxase, doxe. So even though doxa has an alpha here, because it is not preceded by a row or a vowel, the genitive and the dative turn into eta. You will see eta sigma a lot to refer to the genitive singular. And of course, the plural nouns stay the same. I, own, ice, us, I. Real quick word on the genitive plural. It does not matter what declension the noun is in. It does not matter what gender the noun it is. The genitive plural will always be own. You will forget that, so I will repeat that when we go over second declension next week. But the genitive plural, you will see that a lot, and it will be helpful to know that it is always omega nu. So now let's go over some practice. Let's use these three words we learned, hora, doxa, and phone. But now let's define them and use them in a sentence. Hora is hour or time. Now you see that eta with the rough breathing mark, hora he. That he refers to the fact that it is feminine. Anytime you say a he in the lexical form at the beginning of a vocabulary, you know that this word is feminine, and it will have feminine endings, and will take a feminine direct no, it's a feminine definite article, the. That hey right there is the word for the. And so hora means hour or time. Hour, hora, do you see the connection? Hor, hour, it comes from this word hora. That's where we get hour. Doxa, hey, means glory or honor. Have you heard of the word doxology? Doxology means a praise or glory song to God, or a praise, now to him be glory and honor. That's a doxology, and it means glory or honor. The final word we talked about was phone, which is a voice or a sound. Phon, you hear that a lot. Phonic or things of that nature. Phone is a voice or a sound. So using those three words, I'm going to demonstrate in the next few examples how these different cases that we learned are used in sentences. And then I'll let you try in the homework. And please contact me if you have any questions or are confused or do not know what it will turn out as. So first we start out with akue phoneme. Akue phoneme. Akue is he hears. Phoneme is a voice. He hears a voice or a sound. Now, one thing I would like to note, and I did not write this down, but when it comes to nouns in Greek, the indefinite article a or an does not exist. We substitute a or an in a sentence whenever a noun is not followed by a definite article. If there is no definite article, we know it might need an indefinite article, a or an, instead of the. So here we're substituting a voice instead of he hears voice, because he hears voice does not sound good in English. So the parsing phoneme in this case would be the accusative. You see that new ending. It is a feminine noun and it is singular. As for the next sentence, don't worry about that last word, but we have hora doxas elucitai. An hour of glory will come. Don't worry about that word at the end there. I just want to focus on an hour of glory. If you notice, I messed up. If you notice, I messed up. That's actually an eta. Because this is a genitive singular and it follows the mix pattern. That's C. So doxes, hora doxes elucitai. Hora is nominative, feminine singular. It has the nominative ending for a feminine singular noun. Doxes has the genitive singular ending, ace, that we learned earlier. Doxes is genitive feminine singular. In the next sentence, we have a question. Uk akues phonas. Do you not hear voices? You hear not voices, question mark. Well, you hear voices does not sound proper. So instead we would say, do you not hear voices? It's a question. And here we have phonas is accusative feminine plural. Os is always going to be accusative feminine plural. And phonas can either mean sounds or voices. In this case, it means voices, but it could also mean sounds. One more example, we have akuomen phoneme aletheas. We hear akuomen, phoneme, a sound, aletheas, of truth. We have not learned aletheas. However, it is one of the vocabulary words in your textbook for chapter 3. So that will be in the textbook and you will see that. You will not see elucitai. That comes whenever we study future tense verbs. So just ignore that. But aletheas, it would be good to memorize aletheia, which means truth, and its different forms. So aletheas is the genitive singular form. So before that, we had phonas, which is the accusative plural. However, here we have aletheas, which is genitive singular. Do you see how the alpha is preceded by a iota, which is a vowel? That vowel, that diphthong of a, tells us that aletheia is going to be a pure alpha noun, a pure alpha ending noun. So we know that os can either be genitive singular or accusative plural based on the context. Since it is followed by another noun, we know that it refers back to that noun and it is genitive, a sound of truth. And so let's give an example for homework's sake of how you would go about parsing one of these nouns. First, you would write the case. The case of doxas is dative. It means two glories or four honors or four glories or two honors. The gender of this verb is feminine. It is feminine. You just have to memorize that. Sometimes doxa he can help you in the lexical form, but that's how we know it's feminine. It's because of this definite article. The number is plural. Ice is the plural ending for the dative case. Ice is plural. So glories. And finally, we have the lexical form and the inflected meaning. Doxa he, and it means two glories or four honors. So full parsing would be doxais, which is a dative feminine plural noun, which comes from doxa he, four honors or two glories, or two honors or four glories. Depends on the context. If I had a sentence out, it would make more sense which word this was referring to, but this is just an example parsing. Well, I hope this has covered everything you will need in order to attempt the homework for chapter 3. I will talk more about this whenever we have our Zoom call, but just practice, practice, practice. You will not get these endings into your head until you start practicing them and writing them on paper. Remember, 15 minutes a day is far better than an hour and a half a week on one day. Or an hour a day is better than 6 hours in one day. So please practice every day, practice a little bit, and you will be fully prepared to understand first declension feminine nouns. Well, God bless. I hope this helps. Now I just need to figure out how to end it.